I'm Matthew Tilley with RR Donnelley, and you're listening to the CPG Guys.
Welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our hosts, Sri Rajgopalan, Peter V.S. Bond, and Brian Gildenberg, explore how brands and retailers engage consumers in an increasingly digitally driven world. And now, here are the CPG Guys.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the CPG Guys podcast. I'm, of course, Sri, co-founder and co-host of the CPG Guys, and also co-founder and partner of Think Blue, your key to unlocking your profitability potential. As builders, connectors, amplifiers, we shape the future of commerce to drive your growth. Please do listen to my older daughter, Ria Raj's music, www.riaraj.com, R-H-E-R-A-J, and my younger daughter, Laura Raj, as a member of the Geffen Records Universal Music Group, Cat's Eye, who, of course, has completed the debut, done their first fan event, crossed 1 million followers on TikTok and Instagram. At the time of this recording, the world tour of Cat's Eye has already begun. Tokyo, New York, Manila, Seoul, complete. Whole bunch of other stuff coming out, and they've just announced their tour on none other than the Jingle Ball series in Dallas and Boston in December. Touch is already at 72 million plus plays on Spotify, so we got something going on, folks. Just saying. Not joining me today is Peter V.S. Bond, my best friend and co-host. And when he's not co-hosting, he serves as Partnership Acceleration Lead at Flywheel, a division of Omnicom that helps enterprise brands improve their SEO and SEM, growing their e-commerce businesses. PDB couldn't get to talk playoffs since both the Yankees and Dodgers clinched buys in the first wildcard round. Before we get to our guests, we ask you to consider following us in your preferred podcast listening app if you already don't do so. This ensures you automatically receive new episodes as they're released. And while you're at it, follow our sister podcast, the FMCG Guys and CPG Scoop. This year, we are partnering with Drugstore News on December 4th at the iconic Lincoln Center in Manhattan, New York, on the annual Issues Summit on its 21st edition. We will be co-presenting 8 awards at the event in the HBC space to both brands as well as retailers. HBC, of course, is Health and Beauty Care. We're also partnering with the Path to Purchase Institute and the Omni Annual Shopper Awards, Chicago, November 14th, where a select group of winners will also get to feature on none other than the CPG Guys. To be part of these, sponsor any of the awards, get in touch with us at contact@cpgguys.com. That again is contact@cpgguys.com. And announcing revolutionary, earth-breaking, groundbreaking, the first retail media executive education program in our industry, May 5th to 8th at 2025 at Cornell Tech. The CPG Guys are strategic partners with none other than Cornell University for this immersive 4-day program that brings together industry thought leaders, renowned faculty to share best practices for building compelling retail media platforms. You'll discover how to collaborate in creating best-in-class tech stacks, measure performance to ensure brands across the necessary KPIs based on campaign objectives, and establish strong partnerships between brands and retailers. In addition, the program will cover optimizing brand strategies using AI-driven campaign design at scale to achieve marketing goals. Links to our podcast are sistercast on the social media profiles of my daughters Ria and Laura, my wife Kavita's podcast, how to register for PDPL live on the DSN Issues Summit. For more information on the Cornell Retail Media Program, you can find all of those in the digital liner notes of this episode. And now, drum roll please, the main event. Today's shopper is omnichannel in nature, shops 24/7, easily price compares, almost, I would say 100%, but Peter would say almost 100% digitally influenced. In this scenario, it's important to know that the consumer, the household, and in today's volume challenge times, to efficiently reach the right person, or AKA target marketing. Matt is the Vice President of Growth Marketing for RR Donnelley, a trusted global provider of marketing, packaging, print, and supply chain solutions that elevate engagement across the complete customer journey. He works behind the scenes crafting marketing campaigns and on stages and screens, presenting or conducting interviews. Matt leverages his extensive experience in digital advertising and consumer promotions to develop, communicate, and distribute ideas that make marketers even more effective. With a BA in Public Relations Journalism from Bob Jones University and an MBA from Wake Forest University, it's forcing me to say go Deeks. I'm a Hokie, by the way. He resides in the North Carolina mountains, which I actually know pretty well from my days there, where he enjoys running trails, studying theology, and indulging in great coffee, something we're going to have to discover why North Carolina is known for great coffee. But please join me in welcoming to the show Matt Tilley, Vice President of Growth Marketing at RR Donnelley. Matt, welcome to the CPG guys. How you doing, man?
Hey, doing great, doing really good. We appreciate the opportunity to be on here with you.
Solve the mystery. Great coffee in North Carolina. Is it just Matt loves great coffee or Matt loves North Carolina great coffee?
Yeah, it's Matt loves North Carolina, but Matt loves great coffee, which have nothing to do with each other. I just like coffee.
Got it.
And most of the ones I like are usually it's African beans, usually that East African bean. That's the good stuff. Ethiopia and
I bought an espresso machine, like a Virtuo, and that's what I buy my little packs off, and that's what I use. I bought a cappuccino froth machine, and now I enjoy first thing in the morning. I enjoy my homemade cappuccinos, and I don't have to pay $7.39 plus tax and the now almost obligatory 18, 25, 20% tips that's required even at a coffee shop. So thank you for joining us today. I'm incredibly excited to speak with you about the consumer habits, buyer behavior, what's changed in the last year and a half, the possibility of a unified consumer ID perhaps, and so much more in this wonderful, dynamically changing space of ad tech marketing transformation, and in the process discover RR Donnelley's value proposition for our audience. So before we get to detailed questions that we have, it would be great if you give us a brief overview of RR Donnelley and as well as your role there.
Sure. You're calling us RR Donnelley, which is how a lot of folks know us as RR Donnelley. You're going to usually hear people that work here. We try to refer to us as RRD, which people may or may not necessarily know us that way, but we've been around for a long time, about 160 years. 1864 was when we were founded. But a lot of people have heard the name RRD or RR Donnelley, but may not know that we are, I think you said it in your introduction, we're a global company. We've got a wide range of solutions, marketing, solutions printing, full service packaging, comprehensive supply chain solution set. And the real magic, I think, happens with a company like us when you bring those multiple capabilities together to solve kind of bigger problems versus necessarily, one little component of that really solving these bigger issues. My role is growth marketing, which I always think of as just a fancy way of saying my job is to share stories, helping, insights, data, like the data we're going to talk about today, to help our customers and the market in general sort of think differently about how they solve the problems that they're facing. And so my job is to tell those stories, distribute those stories through normal ways, but honestly, this is a great way to share these stories through a good audience like you've got and a great platform like you guys have at the CPG guys. So if I'm doing my job, we're gonna have a great conversation, and people will think a little differently afterwards.
Oh, we're gonna have fun for sure. We already share the mutual love for great coffee.
There you go.
Oh, that's summary, Matt. In the digital line episode, we'll of course place links to your LinkedIn profile, RRD's, I'm going to start saying RRD if it's okay, RRD's LinkedIn profile, and of course the website as well. That way, people listening, which is mostly done on a smartphone, can easily connect straight back from their smartphones. And now, question number one, Matt. I trolled your career a little bit, and I found that you're anchored on consumer marketing and targeting. Take us through the years. So you got out of college, all the way down in the middle of the country on the eastern seaboard. And then how did you get to RRD? And then what anchors and keeps you there?
Sure. So I'll give you the origin story of Matthew Tilley. It actually, believe it or not to keep talking about North Carolina, but it starts because of North Carolina. I come from tobacco farmers in North Carolina, and I wanted to be a tobacco marketer. And my first gig out of college, I went to work for a government relations firm for RJ Reynolds Tobacco. And at that time, it was more about trying to deal with some of the regulations on tobacco and that sort of thing. That's what I was focused on. But quickly levered that into a career at a company called Inmar, which is still around and doing pretty well. And we were focused at that time. This is another Winston-Salem, North Carolina company. We were focused on coupon redemption, and I spent my time helping CPG retail or CPG brands understand the value of coupons, evaluate their own plans, appreciate new ways to deliver coupons. I don't know if you remember print at home coupons. I mean, that was the era of print at home, and it was a big deal at that time. So that was the next stage, was just getting involved with coupons. Then I went over to an ad tech startup. It was called MaxPoint, and it was all about driving from online experiences like ads and things like that into the brick and mortar store. So it was really kind of that online to offline experience that we were working on. It was a perfect setup for grocery, drug, mass, CPG brands, especially when they had a shopper marketing agenda in mind. So that was really what we were focused on. Personally, that was a lot of fun. It was kind of a lot of growth, exciting times. Of course, that was a bit of an era that is no more. That kind of booming ad tech era. And certainly, it's all evolved from there. But we were acquired by Velasys, which is another legacy CPG, brand company that really had a heritage in CPG. Have a coupon settlement division of NCH. Massive co-op shared mail package with the Red Plum at the time, and then Retail Me Not that turned into Save. So it's got a couple different brand names, but reaching a good number of the U.S. households with those essentially kind of coupon booklets is how a lot of people think of them. Of course, we added the MaxPoint ad tech to that, and we've also built new solutions like rounding out a full stack of digital media solutions, OTT, influencer, display, audio, and list goes on, as well as some serious MarTech solutions. We've got NextDrive, which is essentially a CDP, but built for marketing, and then Encounter, which is a in-store media network that we have built out a whole network on some retailers, and that's a growing business for us. Somewhere in the middle there was a brand change to be Veracast. So some people know that company. And then that same heritage, everything I'm telling you that I just described to you, it's still packaged together, but now owned and operated as part of the RRD portfolio. That was an acquisition that just settled and closed in July, middle of July. And so now I'm here at RR Donnelley, RRD, and looking forward to the next chapter. To be honest, personally, if you're asking me personally, how's this going? It's pretty early, and it's kind of new. It's still new for me, but what I see as what's anchoring me here, what I see as the real opportunity, both personally but also professionally, what's here is the fact that we don't necessarily pitch one product or another product as much. We really are about trying to solve problems for our clients. So we've got this core set of capabilities. And what's relevant for this audience particularly is, we understand we can reach, we can engage, we can convert consumers from online, on the screen, in the mailbox, different ways of reaching them. We can convert them so that we can collaboratively work with our clients to solve whatever that challenges. We got that capability, and we can put it to use for those challenges. And we're not necessarily beholden to one media type, one targeting methodology, or one go to market. So that's what I find is pretty cool. Again, there's strengths in being, sort of having those sort of products and all that, but our strength really is the fact that we have this massive capability that we can then turn in a lot of directions. The other cool thing that I'm still on the front edge of trying to figure out and share with our clients is I've been sort of rooted in media for the most part. But now with RRD, we've got packaging and supply chain. And I think there's some synergy there between all of that and the media, trying to bring all that together and solve even bigger problems for our clients. So that's what's exciting to me about what's possible here. And for now is what's absolutely anchoring me in place in this place.
A reminder for audience that this is episode 2 with RRD. Episode 1 was a few weeks ago, where we actually covered the value proposition, the acquisition of Veracast that Matt here referred to. So Matt, believe it or not, I've been in this industry long enough to actually know the name of every brand you referred to through the acquisitions, the mergers, buyouts, as the case might be. And I still print coupons every now and then. Is that wrong? It annoys the rest of my family when I do that, because they're all digital, but I just enjoy doing that, especially at a drug chain that I won't name. But I heard that you've recently conducted a market research study on the diaspora of changing consumer habits and its evolution. Given where we are in the industry with brands being challenged for volume and shifting consumer habits, give us the scoop first on what prompted it, what sort of data, what sort of questions did you ask, sample size, and if someone wants to get the copy of the research and the corresponding insights, how would they go about doing that? Maybe you can answer that first.
Yeah, I can start with where you can get it. I'll make sure that you have the link, Sri, that you can include in the notes for this episode. But just sort of to tell you as I'm talking, you could go to rrd.com. You can navigate to our resources section, and it will be featured as a new resource because it is actually brand new research that's just now being published. And if you land on that resources page, you're going to see it front and center. So it's a pretty easy thing. But again, hopefully we will give you the link, and hopefully folks can navigate to it there as well. The research that we're publishing here is actually something we have published both as Veracast prior to this acquisition and even prior to that as Velasas. It's a report that we do on a regular basis, an annual basis, to try to understand consumer attitudes and behaviors around media. And we've been doing this for a few years now. And our goal really is to see what is it that consumers, and this is a consumer panel that we go to, and we ask, what is it that they want? What are they worried about? What do they appreciate from marketers? And we're trying to look at those answers, obviously, through the lens of a marketer, because you're trying to reach those people. So we want to ask them some questions to get their perspective on that. And then, of course, we offer our perspective on those trends. We're going to tell you what they're saying, but also, try to offer some recommendations and solutions around that. This year, we fielded the survey with a partner called Prosper Insights and Analytics, and they surveyed about 1,800 consumers. And we, try to get it a nice representative sample across various generations, financial status, some things like that. The other thing we added in, and we don't always do this, we did it this year, was a survey of decision makers at grocery, drug, and mass retailers. So we did the 1,800 consumers, and then we added 250 decision makers in the grocery, drug, and mass business, to ask them some questions, almost comparing it. Here's what consumers want. What are you doing, or what are you investing in? How are you thinking about the world? So we kind of came at it from both angles, and we're asking both sets of survey takers several questions about attitudes, goals, overall mindset towards marketing. And as I said, we'll make this available, but it's very new research that we've actually, this is one of the first places, in fact, the first place that I've talked about this. So you all have the sort of fresh eyes on it.
Before we dig into the outcomes and research, let's see if you agree with this hypothesis we've often talked about in the CPG guys since March of last year, 18 odd months at this point. Inflation has driven insane volume challenges. Are brands actually responding well to the volume challenges? What are you guys seeing? And then tell us about what the research says in terms of consumer habits that have actually changed in those 18 months.
I think the short answer is, whether you and I might evaluate that brands are doing a good or not good job, consumers are telling us they're frustrated. They're frustrated with the prices. They're frustrated with that. If actually in our survey data, it was 88% of the respondents said we're frustrated with rising prices. That is about 80% for food and beverage, specifically in that subcategory. There's 80% of the respondents said that particular category is really frustrating. And of those people, 46% were very frustrated. So, these are like over the top, and like they're just really, really angry about this and upset about this. Other categories, healthcare, household goods, beauty care, maybe a little bit lower, but nonetheless still frustrated, pretty high, 75% plus. And it affects every demographic. It's not one demographic or another. Older consumers and higher incomes actually are a little bit more frustrated than others, but nonetheless, everybody's upset about this. But overall, behaviors, of course, are changing as well. So it's not just that they're frustrated; they're actually doing something about it. They're trying to be more, sort of stick to a shopping list. So they're actually saying, I know what I'm going to get. I don't have a lot of margin here, so I'm going to stick with that list. That's about almost 60% of the consumers, the respondents told us that. They're even choosing to actually cook at home, which I know is actually good for CPG brands versus, say, restaurants. But they're actually saying, instead of going out to eat, I'm going to cook at home because I feel like I can control those costs a little bit. They're stocking up. They're buying less than they were before, that's where your volume issues come in. But they're also, when they're buying down price. So they're they're trading down to maybe that cheaper brand, or even in about a third of the cases, they're buying private labels. So they're buying those store brands instead of the big national brand. And then about a third as well are using coupons. Now, this is where I think we get the closest kind of absolute comparison of how are brands doing versus what consumers expect. Because what we found in the first half of this year, I should start by saying coupon redemption within the CPG space has just been on a kind of a multi-year decline. So people just aren't using at the same rate as they were, even a couple of years ago, and definitely versus say a decade or more ago. So just know that. That said, in the first half of this year, we saw an increase, a slight increase. I think it was something like, I can't remember that off the top of my head. It was like 7-8% increase, but it was a slight increase in coupon redemption versus the same period last year, which is news. But that's in spite of the fact that there was a significant decline in distribution. So brands are not putting those offers out there. Now, it's easy for us to sit here and say, yeah, they should put more coupons out. As you know, that costs money. There's a cost implication. But in terms of delivering to consumers what they want, they're saying, yeah, give me an offer, give me a deal. And I'll redeem that, but those brands are not even making them available to them. So there's at least one kind of head to head. What are they doing? Are they meeting needs? And the verdict there is, at least on that front, they're not meeting the needs of the consumer. But I should add, if I can, is that it's not just about price either now. So I'm making it about price, but it's not. Yes, inflation is absolutely pushing this. That's kind of the lead story. But consumers also want relevance. So, if you're going to give them a deal, they want it to be relevant. They want to make sure their buying habits are rewarded. They want you to know that, hey, you're a loyal customer, so thank you, and here's a deal for that. So they appreciate relevancy. They also appreciate personalization, which I know that a lot of retailers are working really, really hard to do that. Brands as well, for that matter. But consumers are really seeing that as a positive. And whenever that message is tailored to them, about half of consumers say, that's actually going to make me more loyal. If you can actually tailor that to me and I recognize you're talking to me, they're going to be loyal. And then the other insight around, other than price, what consumers care about is actually local. They want to be able to buy products from their area, buy from people that are doing business in their neighborhood. They actually want to support their own neighborhoods. And like I said, brands are generally, they're not spending as much. They're focused on ROI, and I get why they're doing that. My hot take, though, for what it's worth, take it for that. But I think now, in this kind of a moment, is the time to invest to create that long-term loyalty. If you meet the needs of people, candidly, when they're really having a tough time, and actually, there's consumers I think are making choices based on literally what are they going to put on the shelves of their pantry based on what's on sale, what's the best price, what's the most value. And they're going to respond to those brands that appear to them to be empathetic to them and actually care about who they are and what they're interested in. And I believe in the U.S. economy. Yeah, it's kind of tough right now, but I think those investments today will pay out. And I genuinely believe that that's how iconic brands really are made. When we will invest today, you may not have that ROI today, but in the long run, that's where that's going to come whenever you can do that. Right now, I'm not seeing that in a big way across the board.
Let me ask you, first of all, a bunch of power-packed insights right there, right? Stuff that I've experienced myself as a chief customer officer in a previous role, especially the coupon stacking madness of brands. A little bit of a surprise there that the consumer isn't responding well to coupon stacking, and when they buy, the opening price point matters much more than even the coupon stacking. But let me ask you the obvious question, Matt. So you dropped a bunch of insights with all those changes, right? How the heck can RRD help brands get to the right consumers at the right place?
Well, I think there's 3 answers I'll give you to that. One is better data. Second is better targeting. Third is better cross-channel coordination. Just to give you those 3 headlines, and if you'll let me, I'll just talk about each one of those in turn. First one, better data. RRD really we pride ourselves on having the tools, the people, and the systems that can unite that data, augment it, and then this is the key, actually activate those consumer insights. So go from, you know something, to now turning that into an ad, turning that into a message, turning that into influencer content that is actually in front of the consumers you're trying to reach. So we're able to take the data that you have, which, almost every brand has some data. It may not be in the best form, but you got something. And we're able to take that and, like I said, augment it, put it together, augment it, and then activate it to fill in the blanks where the data may be missing. So that's something that we are able to do. We've built the frameworks that have the ethical actions and that good governance, because those are, we can talk about data all the way along, but if you don't do it the right way, you're going to run into trouble. So we've got the frameworks have ethics and good governance underneath it. So it's not just about grabbing information from your consumer, but actually creating that insight to activation pipeline with that end consumer's best in mind. And ideally, we'd love it if you're going to activate on our media. But the cool thing about what we're offering is, even if you're working with some other media partners, we have those tools and those data systems to actually plug it into wherever you're activating your data. So that's that better data is sort of foundational point number one. Second thing that we're offering to brands is better targeting. So better data on its own obviously does equal better targeting, right? So that's fair. So we've got things like our consumer graph that enables brands to reach those people they're looking for that are in market right now. But also we're offering, I mentioned at the top there, that we don't sort of have one targeting methodology. We actually offer a combination, even a nice hybrid of a couple of different things, like contextual targeting. So that actually, along with finding the right people at the right place that are in market, actually targeting, connecting that brand with the right content in the right settings, along with the right conversations, and doing both of those. It's not an either or. It's a little bit of both, depending on what you're exactly trying to accomplish. That's the second part of the brand offering, the solution offering. And the third part of what we're offering to brands is better cross-channel coordination. So you can't just target, hit it, and then leave. It really, there's the real big opportunity is to connect that CTV activation to a direct mail drop. So you show up on the television, but then within the next few days, it shows something shows up in their mailbox as well, or enabling social media content that drives into an e-commerce experience. So really to connect the dots between some of the things that you're doing. And what we're offering is a wide range of media opportunities that can be seamlessly integrated with that unified consumer journey in mind. And then, not to forget, and I think this is part of that cross-channel coordination, is reporting on the back end, not just to evaluate how did your program do. You definitely need that. I mean, that's kind of table stakes, but actually to learn from it so you can plow into the next campaign so that you can understand what channels work best together for your target audience. So in sum, I mean, it's really better data all around, better targeting because of that, and then being able to connect the dots between all the channels that you're executing.
Awesome, Matt. Let me remind the public that today I'm speaking with Matt Tilley, Vice President of Growth Marketing at RRD. I've now been schooled to say RRD.
There you go.
So now let's go to another important consumer behavior. We often heard, and then I can't remember if it was McKinsey or not that put out that report back at the beginning of the pandemic, more towards like December, January 2020, 2021, that CPG and retail had accelerated 10 years in about 2 or 3, maybe 1 year from an omnichannel retail perspective. So the consumer, I mentioned at the top of the show, nearly 100% digitally influenced. So in this sort of omnichannel behavior, what does the report cover? What should brands respond to? What should retail respond to in terms of where they shop and the store that they choose?
So the report tells us that consumers are really connected, and it's going to be winning their heart to those stores that are closer to their home. That on its own is probably not that big of a revelation. About 2/3 of the respondents said the closer home it is, the better, more likely I'm going to go there. But this is the thing. Add to that the insight about inflation, how they're frustrated about prices. About 43% of the respondents said, I'll go to a cheaper store even if it's further away. But, so I got to balance all these things out. Yeah, I want to be close. I want a better price, but the shopping experience matters. About a third of consumers. Now, it was actually higher than that, about 40% of younger, like Gen Z and millennial consumers. But overall, about a third of consumers say, I'm going to pick the most engaging experience. And I don't care how far I have to go. And again, that's the holy grail, right? If you can be close to me and a good price and give me an engaging experience, that's going to be the thing that gets them together. But again, if you think about their prioritization, close wins all the time. That's going to be number one. Second thing that's going to win is a price. And then the third ranking is going to be that experience. That's how the consumers that responded to our survey, how they rank that. Now for brands, I think they have to go beyond to really get to that. They have to go beyond just what the retailer's understanding of the shopper. That is valid and valuable information. I'm definitely not undermining it in any way, but I think brands, to really get to this, how a shopper chooses where to shop, they have to have their own consumer data strategy, a framework that's understanding and generating insights about what's going on, what's engaging their consumer, what's driving their particular consumer. I just gave you the sort of generic answers from the report, and I can tell you, depending on what brand and where you are in the market, how you compete, those answers might be a little different for your consumers. Now, for retailers, one of the things we asked retailers about how they're trying to affect this is we said, what's working for you? And here's what they told us. They said this was about a third. Everything that they told us about a third. Loyalty programs work, they said. In-store video actually works for retailers. And then personalized offers, discounts, coupons, that sort of thing. Net, at least from the retailer's perspective, they're kind of doubling down on the personalized experience. So if I can give, again, loyalty and video and all that, it's all about giving me what actually is personalized to the person. So that's what we're learning, is that's how retailers are responding. And I think brands have to respond by coming up with their own perspective on this. Again, learning from the retailers, but coming up with their own perspective and kind of adding on to that.
Interesting insights overall, because the very next thing that pops up in my head is loyalty. Clearly, if they're shopping, 2/3 say, hey, I'm going to shop near my store, there's an aura of inbuilt loyalty. But this is more about, is it actually worse for brands that 2/3 want to stay within the store nearby? Because loyalty, at the pace store brands are growing and households are leaving regular routine, everyday kind of large market cap brands, which they've trusted over years. What have we learned in that space? What does the research point to? I mean, as store brands, now you mentioned it very briefly. And what did you learn in loyalty and brand retention as a result?
Well, I will say this. This is potentially the obvious thing, but it's worth noting that having a loyal customer, and this is true for retailers and brands, if it was ever a guarantee, I don't know that it was, but if it ever was, it is definitely not guaranteed now. So, I mean, it's definitely, you've got to fight for that. From a retailer's point of view, though, they're in a better spot to hang on to the consumer because, and this is what you just alluded to, that, because people have, whether it's close to home or they found the best prices or whatever, that most often, because we all have our kind of favorite couple of stores that we go to. And about 55% of consumers say there's my most often store. And that's the store I'm going to go to, like, most of the time. That's the one. And they're pretty loyal to that. That number goes up, by the way, if they're older consumers or they're wealthier. So if they have a little more money, they have their favorites and they go to it. So point being, the retailer, at least in about 55% of the time, they're going to have a pretty loyal shopper. If they've got them, they've got them. Now, the difference maker is going to be the money. It's going to be the economics, especially for younger consumers. About 45% of consumers overall, though, say, if you can offer me good savings, that's where, I mean, they really are open to being persuaded by the dollar. And that just goes back to the fact that, I mean, everybody's having a tough time right now. Economics are not on our side. So as a brand, if you're going to win the day, you're going to win it or lose it, for that matter, by economics, which is why you ask about store brands and private labels. That's why a lot of those are winning, because those prices are at least competitive in most cases, and in a lot of cases actually are really even the lower price on the shelf. So if you got the dynamic of a retailer sort of owning that consumer, because that's where they're going to stay for the most part, and now they're offering them better deals, so that brand is going to as odds go, that's going to go in the favor of the private label. 57% of consumers in our survey said it was more important to them. So we're talking about now almost just shy of 2/3 say it is more important for me to save money than for me to be loyal to one brand or one store. I'm more interested in that. And 57%, same percentage, said you have to offer them savings or else they're going to bolt. And that number, interestingly, as much as the higher income consumer, the affluent consumer, is loyal to their most often store, they are actually more likely to bolt for a savings. Like if you offer them a good deal, they're going to jump to another store in a heartbeat. It's about 65% of those consumers. So the point is that loyalty is definitely not guaranteed, and it's not fickle, because I think people really do have their favorites, but they're in a position overall to say, listen, I can't afford to just keep doing this. I've got to make the right economic choice here.
It's not that loyalty doesn't exist, but the definition of loyalty is changing. That's what it is.
For sure.
I think it's now, the survey kind of hints back at what we've seen in the last 18 months, right? That opening price points matter. Store brand is winning. The numbers are actually large. From a research insights perspective, coming back from the survey, much larger than I think most brands kind of comprehend. Hey, there's some tiny growth in private label. Not the case, it sounds like. And then retaining loyalty does require a brand to adapt to what is the new definition of loyalty. And they are definitely price hunting, price shopping, looking for the most attractive price. All of these things are, standing out to be 100% true. But let's go into this physical store itself, right? Talk of our time is traffic is back since COVID, since 2023. And user experience in store needs to reflect that, given the heavy digital influence. I think Walmart just announced that they're going to slowly start moving away from cashless registers, which I thought was actually a boon and a saving, but turned out people want cashiers. But more importantly, they want even better convenience. So Walmart is going to go into the business of allowing scan and go. And more details to come in the next few months, how they allow that, right? So what are you learning about user experience given the heavy digital influence for the in-store environment? What are people saying?
Sure. One of the things that we did on this survey, particularly in talking to the grocers, we obviously know that people like, folks like the Walmarts, they're dominant. They what they say matters, and what they're doing definitely sets a tone. But where we were curious about what some of the small and medium-sized grocers were doing around this. And so one of the things that was pretty clear was a good number. I think it was about 1/3 of the grocers that smaller grocers under 400 million in revenue. So those smaller guys said they plan to invest in, quote, interactive in-store experiences. So they are catching on to the fact that they have to, as you suggested, you've got a digital influence user who is experiencing all the wonders of the World Wide Web on their phone and on their desktop. When they walk into those brick and mortar experiences, they want at least some of those convenience and some of those memes to show up in that same space. So the smaller grocers are really getting that. And about the same percentage, which is probably why they're investing in it, say they believe that this is what's going to move the needle. This is what's going to work with consumers. They think this is what the future holds. And I think what's interesting about that is that that's a nice convergent. I actually think this is a applauding of those retailers, because this is what consumers are telling us that they want. They said they want that experience, especially if those kinds of personalized experience, or rather interactive experiences, result in personalized offers, personalized messages. They want to be acknowledged. Again, they don't want to be. You've got to be careful not to be creepy. I get all that, but at the end of the day, they want you to recognize, hey, I'm spending money in your store. That's important to me, and you know that, I know that, and when you do that for them, they're going to be happy about it. So I think that investment that these smaller grocers are planning to make, which is definitely influenced, as we suggested, by some of the big guys and what they're doing. I think you're going to see kind of a ripple effect all the way through the grocery industry, the CPG grocery industry, to see these smaller to medium-sized retailers really trying to keep pace. It's also why I mentioned it at the beginning. I just want to mention it now as well, that we're investing in a product that we call Encounter. And this is a network of screens in stores that are going to enable brands to target shoppers as they walk through the store aisles. So you would be able to get a relevant message as you're walking through, depending on your profile. If you're going to get an ad for a particular brand or type of product or category of product, because you're going to get that as you're walking and navigating the stores. And this is something that consumers say, about 33% of them, which I think as this being relatively, not as common as some other technologies, about 33% of them are saying, we noticed that. And parents actually notice it even higher. About 40% of parents say, we're noticing those screens in the store when we see those screens. And those people that notice them say it actually helps them with product discovery. This is something they really want to help me find a new brand, find a new product, help me find something I might have overlooked. Again, I don't want to suggest that the fundamentals go out the window. Price still matters, experience still matters, all of that matters, but this is a new layer that comes on top that says, hey, here's a new product that maybe you weren't thinking about, a new brand in a category that you might be interested in. And that's interesting to consumers. And the point is that there's this overall emphasis, both from the consumer side, but also on the retailer side, to have a better, more robust in-store experience, a more digitally influenced in-store experience. And I think screens, and that's something we're investing in, I think maybe one of the big ways to deliver that kind of experience to consumers.
Hey, Matt, before I ask you the last question for this episode, can you remind our audience one more time if they want to get a copy? I mean, this is power-packed set of insights, right? If they want to get a copy of the full research report, where can they do that again? They go to the website?
Yeah, go to the website, rrd.com. Just go to rrd.com, and then there's a resources tab, and it's pretty prominent in the upper navigation. And this is our newest piece of research, and it will be featured pretty prominently, so you won't have to hunt for it. But if you just go to rrd.com and click resources, you will see this new research. We call it the CPG Grocery Consumer Report.
Hey, you may just run into other research as well from RR Donnelley, but we're, of course, for those listening, we're going to have the link to this research report on the digital liner notes along with the other stuff, Matt's info, etc. So you should be able to pick it up easily. And finally, for the last question, where we look future forward. So lots going on with tech. We've uncovered a lot of those stuff and discussed them today. Consumer habits are changing, behaviors are changing, loyalty is changing, definition of loyalty is changing. So what's next for this tech-influenced consumer world, especially artificial intelligence? Are you guys touching that at all? Sorry, I couldn't let an episode pass without that word.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can tell you, just to answer that directly, artificial intelligence is definitely baked into how that we find our audiences, find how do our targeting. So it is definitely important to how our technology operates. But as far as to sort of predict the future, to look at the future, I don't trust my own judgment enough to say what I think the future holds, but I can tell you what retailers think is coming based on our research. And across the board, about a third, the slightly different numbers, but about a third on everything I'm about to tell you. About a third of retailers said we're going to invest in loyalty programs. And again, if you think about those small and medium-sized retailers, that's not surprising because some of them don't have programs, or if they do, they're very underdeveloped. So what these retailers are saying is we're going to invest in loyalty programs. They're going to then invest, about a third of them are going to invest in personalized coupons, personalized offers. That's something that they've heard from consumers. It was in our research, but they have heard it themselves, and they said this is something we want to invest in. And then, as we've already talked about a little bit about the in-store experience, about a third of them say we want to invest in interactive in-store experiences. I was actually heartened, though, to see that there's one other point that they saw as important, and that is investing in their data. So you can talk about loyalty all you want to, coupons all you want to, all these different things, but unless there's that bedrock of really solid data, you're kind of spitting in the wind, to be honest with you. And the retailers that are in our survey are telling us, we're going to invest in a CRM or a CDP. We're going to invest in that underlying data and how to structure it in the frameworks that are necessary. And in essence, what I'm hearing from them is they want to get to know their customers better and deliver on what those people want, which I've talked to some old school grocers from back in the day, and that's like foundational to what the grocery business is. You know your people, you know how to talk to them, you know how to merchandise for them. I think the question that I have, and this is where, if you'll allow me to get on my bully pulpit for just a second, I have this question, which is it going to happen? We can plan and hope and all that sort of thing. And I think that it will happen if we, and I say really it's the sort of royal we, not just RRD, but the industry at large can really lean in on collaboration. I think that's the secret sauce that sometimes gets missed, is if retailers, brands, and the providers will work together. I have seen a move towards a lot of insourcing, and I understand why for some of those things it makes sense, sort of efficiency and all that, and cost cutting. And there's certain key activities that can't and should never be outsourced. So I definitely understand that. But I think it's a miss not to leverage the thinking and the building and the connecting that really good vendors and a nice community of those, not just one or two, but a nice community of those vendors can offer. I genuinely think that on their own, the brightest minds in CPG and in retail are going to do awesome things. I don't doubt it. I would even bet on it. But I think it's with partners like RRD. I'll give you the shameless plug. I think partners like RRD, when we're a partner alongside of those great brands and those great retailers, we can tackle some of these challenges faster and more efficiently. So I know what retailers are saying they're going to do, but I'm hopeful that we'll collaborate together and work towards that, so that brands and retailers can build on what we're offering. We've got this, great cooperative direct mail network. We've got great contextual targeting that's going to help navigate the ad tech challenges and changes. We've got social media content that's going to help, be integrated into the shopping experience, and this in-store media network that I was talking about. We've got all these nice tools that can be shaped into what is needed for specific retailers and specific brands to make it happen and take the essence of what we're doing and make it work. So I think that's where all these hopes and dreams will turn into reality if we can actually work together and solve these things together.
As important as it is for brands and retailers to work together and figure this out, they also need service providers who can do MarTech, AdTech, data, and insights. Sounds like you guys are in a very interesting intersection: MarTech, AdTech, data, insights. We're pretty deep on the data side as well. So let me remind our audience that you can find all of our content by simply going to a web browser and typing cpgguys.com as a URL. If you think you or your company has some thought leadership to contribute to our community discussion, drop us an email at contact@cpgguys.com, and maybe you can join us on the podcast. Don't forget to drop us a rating at cpgguys.com on the navigation bar. This is important because this tells us how we're doing. Your review tells us, are we having the right conversations with the right people? To our LinkedIn followers, we don't exist without you. Thank you for the clicks, likes, direct messages, showing up for our events, our dinners, our parties, and most importantly, for just downloading and listening to our episodes every week. Again, you shape the show. We can't be more thankful. Matt, thank you for making time to do this with the CPG guys.
It was a pleasure. It was a joy.
That's a wrap of this episode of the CPG guys.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.